tales of strange encounters from the Arkansaw Boys. If you've had a strange encounter from a dog man, Bigfoot, ghost, alien, or any kind of monster for that matter, you can send your account to arkansawboys@gmail.com. Be sure if you want us to include your name or not, and we'll get your story on here, and we're going to get right into our first account. We have 3 tales of Bigfoot encounters that's happened around Arkansas. One's from back in the 1800s, and 2 are ones that's happened here pretty recent and local. Alright, we'll be right back at you. Alright, here we go. The Wild Man of Arkansas was reported before the Civil War. It's a term they use for what we call today Bigfoot or Sasquatch. The creature was first reported in eastern Arkansas as early as 1834. But the first detailed account, however, was published in an article in 1846 and repeated in newspapers across the nation. It told of a sighting of the creature near Crowley's Ridge. The wild man was said to be of gigantic stature, covered in hair, and eyewitnesses said that his track measured 22 inches. His toes are as long as a common person's fingers, and his height is double the usual man. This was one of the first detailed accounts of the discovery of Bigfoot tracks in American history, and came long before the first recorded sightings in the Pacific Northwest. Over the decades that followed, the wild man seems to have made regular appearances about every 4 or 5 years. He was seen chasing a herd of cattle in 1851, and Colonel David C. Cross of Memphis organized an expedition to capture him. The effort failed, but it seems to have been the first recorded Bigfoot hunt in American history. Reports of the creature appeared again in 1856, this time in southeastern Arkansas and all the way up to the Ouachita Mountains. And a fairly bizarre report even told of a vicious attack on a man who was a part of a group trying to capture the monster. Bigfoot reports continue in Arkansas even to this day. Alright, we got an encounter here from northwest Arkansas from a guy that wants to remain anonymous. His encounter with Bigfoot happened in 1988, and I'm just going to read his story here. He says, "Let me tell you about what happened to me in 1988. I just bought a new 270 deer rifle right before deer season. Didn't have a scope on it that season. I was hunting on a mountain they call Braden. It's about a couple miles from the Buffalo River near Jasper, Arkansas. That morning I got out of my truck. It wasn't good light yet, and man, it was cold. The ground was frozen and was loud when I walked. I was walking down an old log road, and I came to where they bed logs, and stopped till it got a little lighter. Stood there maybe 10 minutes. I looked down a deep, steep hill, and I seen someone walking up towards me. First thing I thought was, that guy don't have any orange on. It was still not a lot of light, so I just stood there. Then I saw him again. This time I said to myself, this isn't a man. Then it disappeared again in the trees. I could hear it, but couldn't see it. Man, I kinda freaked out. I stood there a couple more minutes, saw it one more time, this time with my safety off, but it disappeared again. I know it wasn't a man coming out of that holler that time of morning, but I really don't know what it was. I got the crap out of there and never went back. Just thought I'd share it. It happened a long time ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. We have accounts like that from several different hunters around up in the national forest, and we're gonna bring them to you at a later date and read those stories too. That was a good encounter. I want to thank him for sending it to us. Talk to you in a little bit with one more encounter on this episode. Alright, here's our third encounter. It's from Henry Brandon and from 2008. And it's down by the Ouachita National Forest. He said he bought some property on Dollar Road, and that's close to the National Forest there. And I'm just going to go ahead and read his account. Here we go. I had been working on remodeling the house that was on the property that I bought. It had been a long, hot day, so I decided to call it a day. So went in, got me a cold drink, and got in my truck and decided to drive down some of the old logging roads that was adjacent to my property. On one of these roads, I drove down to the end of the road to a wide spot where you could turn your vehicle around. I turned my vehicle around and pulled under one of the shades that give me a good view of the mountain side below and all the activity. I could see some of my property and land that I'd purchased. So I decided to sit there and rest and relax, so I rolled the window down on the truck. I had been sitting in the truck for about 15 or 20 minutes when I suddenly heard the sounds of something running swiftly through the dry brush and leaves behind the truck. I quickly turned to look over my left shoulder but saw nothing. I turned back to look along the roadside beside the truck, and I was startled to see a large hair-covered creature walking quickly across the narrow road. As the creature stepped across the road, it walked slightly bent over and looking straight ahead. When it reached the opposite side of the road, it stopped and looked at the truck a split second, then lunged off the road and down a very steep hillside. As the creature raced down the steep hillside, I could see that it was at times completely bent over with its hands touching the ground. Before the creature quickly got out of sight, I grabbed my rifle from the gun rack in the truck and ran to a clearing along the roadside. I could see that the creature had stopped in the open woods by a small branch at the bottom of the holler below. The creature at this time was about 100 yards away from me down in the holler. It turned to look back up the hill at me, then quickly lunged and jumped into the woods there below and disappeared. Henry goes on to give a description of the creature that he saw. He says it's around 7 to 7.5 feet tall, had light brown hair that looked to be about 6 inches long, and that the hair was not matted or anything like that. He said that when you see it, even though it was on all fours at the time, it had amazing speed. The exposed skin on the face of it appeared to be darker than a human's face, but it was still in light brown color. That's an amazing encounter there, Henry. Thank you for sending that in, and that's the end of Strange Encounters from the Arkansaw Boyz. Remember, if you got a strange encounter and you want it to air on our program here, send it to the Arkansaw Boyz at gmail.com, and be sure to include, if you want your name told in the account and any other information. And y'all just have a good evening and see you in the next episode.